to receive their acceptance letter starting November 2023 for the early actions. And then in January, we also, after acceptance letter, within about 30 days, you receive a scholarship letter from our office. We released the 3 so far. One is released December 15th. The other one we did end of January. The last one we did recently is March 20th. So if you missed all of them, either because you applied late after March 1st, or your GPA or your other academic qualification is not meeting the minimum requirement. We have offered almost 2,000 scholarships to both out-of-state and international. This year, we received a very competitive application pool from the international and out-of-state population. We find a great pleasure reviewing all those qualified students' application. However, it is also kind of a pressure for us to select the best candidate for those scholarships. Scholarships you do not need. I know a lot of students have this as a question, they might have it. So hold on to the end. I will talk about a little bit about presentation, cost in the presentation, as well as the scholarship again. But just making sure if you have not received a scholarship due to whatever reasons, we will have a final review after May 1st. May 1st is a National College Decision Day. At that time, a lot of students who has submitted their intent to enroll or who has not will confirm with Georgia State, say, this is my answer, I'm coming or I'm not coming. We offered so many waivers, out-of-state tuition waiver, which is called a Campus Atlanta Scholarship. However, not everybody will come. So we will have some funding back. Hopefully, we will have more to offer those students on the wait list. Okay, but number one, you have to, because we have a non-binding intent to enroll, there's no security deposit. If you have intention to come to Georgia State, you wanted to get the scholarship, I do recommend you to submit your intent to enroll, because once you're submit your intent to enroll, it triggers a lot of next step. For example, the system will choose a lot of students to the scholarships based on the intent to enroll submission date, as well as the next step. If you wanted to register for the orientation for next steps, which is class registration, if you had not submitted intent to enroll, you will not be invited to those sessions either. So while you're completing all your academic requirement, please making sure process your immigration application as well, which is if you're required to be sponsored by Georgia State, you need a student visa, you have to complete your I20. And after that, you also needed to complete something called a Start at State. It's a half-an-hour presentation, very easy and fun. It's an online pre-orientation module. It tells you what is Georgia State about, how to navigating online resources, and what those classes will look like very briefly. And you will have a welcome message there from our president. And then once you finish it, for students who are non-freshmen or first-year student, you are a transfer, you're a transition, you are post-bac, re-entry, all the other students type, you can go ahead, meet with your advisor to register for classes. The second week of May, we'll start to talk about focus on class registration, orientation, class registration. We're going to repeat sessions for those in May. Okay, in June is your time to sign up for the advising session that for freshman students, you finish online orientation, then you're going to be assigned to the online virtual advising session. You have to attend the session because you are first-year students. You have no college experience. We want you to go through and like half-day introduction, meet with advisor, meet with other students, meet our student success team, and they will help you navigating with more resources, more support, as well as help you with your class registration. So if you are a first year, which is freshman student, you are required to attend the advising virtual session. If you're a transfer non-freshman, you can register classes. You can reach out to your advisors online directly. Okay, if you have holds, orientation holds, you have to attend online orientation. If you have a immunization holds, you have to provide your immunization records, your shot records. Without that, you are not allowed to attend on-campus classes. If for those of you who we just heard a couple students got their visa rejected, unfortunately, they cannot come for fall 2024 because their next visa appointment will postpone until September. For that reason, you can do is you can start without delay online. We do have online program at one of our perimeter campus, okay? Georgia State University have two separate campuses, Atlanta downtown and also Perimeter College. Perimeter College is a pathway program. Also, students can obtain associate degree if you finish 2 year. Most students, however, finish 1 year and then transfer or transition to the downtown campus. The reason they go to Perimeter College is the smaller classes. The tuition is 1/3 of the downtown campus. A lot of students apply to downtown, did not get a scholarship, choose to start at the Perimeter College for 1 year. When they transition back to the downtown campus, they will become the priority, come to the scholarship consideration. When they first admitted to Atlanta campus, the scholarship requirement right now is a 3.8 GPA, which is about 96% out of 100. When you transition from the campus in Perimeter College to downtown, the requirement is only 3.3. Okay, and also because of Perimeter College smaller classes, they offer learning support. That means you're not only gonna go to class, you also after class, there are additional class sessions, recitations, tutoring services to help you maintain a good GPA that boost your chance to get another look or chance to apply for your scholarship when you transition. So we will have a session specifically talk about how to reactivate, how to change your campus if you wanted to start at the Perimeter College in mid-May. Okay, my colleague Jenna will set up those meetings and send out the invitation for you. But in the meanwhile, do what you have to do. Finish your intent to enroll, finish your activation for campus ID, start apply for your I20. If everything you have finished, but you still cannot attend downtown, then you look at other alternatives. Start online or go to the Perimeter College. There are many, many times that there are longer time for you to processing that, okay? So let me see. The next one is orientation. I want to mention orientation for international students actually have 3 parts. I mentioned the online module called Start at State. You can go to orientation.gsu.edu or Start at State. Just Google Start at State at Georgia State University. They will link you directly to how to obtain the self-paced online pre-orientation module. You finish that one, you're gonna go online, finish your I20, then there's a form called orientation form. The form pops out at the end of your Start at State. Okay, you don't need to worry, so where's the form? How do I find the form? It's automatically pop out at the screen at the end when we finish your Start at State. If you don't see that, please do let me know, okay? I want to see, the second one is after Start at State, the second one is your online or virtual advisement session. You meet with your advisor. That is only for freshman international student. We have 3 session offers. One is in June, one is in July. The next one is in August, okay? If you miss all 3 of them, you have to wait until the 3rd week of August when you get to campus before class starts and meet with your advisor in person. The third orientation is international student orientation. That is more focused on immigration checking in with the ISSS office. Okay, so they will show how to do the ISO. So now I will turn to my colleague, Bradley, let her start the next presentation for the International Students and Scholar Office. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, and good morning to everyone, or at least it's morning here in Atlanta. I'm sure it's lots of different times for everybody else who are still outside the country. So a little bit about the office I work in, which is International Student and Scholar Services, also known as ISSS. We process immigration documents and immigration processes for everyone who is identified as a non-immigrant visa holder, or basically just anyone who's not a citizen. There are a couple different paths that students go through to process documents with us and have their immigration holds lifted. One is verifying their lawful presence in the US. We're going to talk a lot more about this. Excuse me. Or receiving an immigration document. And the third option is to decline verifying your lawful presence if you're perhaps in the US without a status. So there are lots of different statuses that we work with, including people who have applied for asylum, been approved for asylum, and then been approved as a refugee. We do not accept paper documents. Everything we do is done virtually. Most of the documents are uploaded to a portal called iStart that we'll talk about, and I'll show you images of. Otherwise, sometimes we have to use email to receive documents. Next slide, please. Thanks. So iStart is a portal that we use to receive documents from students, process requests, review information, and then also to send you emails. So within 24 to 48 hours of your admission, you'll receive an email from iStart, and it'll say next steps to verify lawful presence or request an immigration document. This is the big important email. If you ever add another program along the way, if you ever add a certificate program, you're going to get this email again. And this is what prompts you to take action to lift immigration holds. So if you ever believe that you've received an email in error from ISSS, please do contact us about it, because we are definitely only sending you an email if we think you need to take action. So we can go to the next slide. This is a little view of the next steps email. This is what it looks like for someone who's been admitted to Perimeter College. It's very similar for someone who's been admitted to the downtown campus. We remind you to activate your campus ID because you can't do very much until you do that. And then we have instructions for logging in to iStart. And then depending on your situation, there are instructions on what you need to do to have your immigration holds lifted. It's very important that you do activate your campus ID. If you're having trouble with that, you can try contacting the IT department. Next slide. So after you've activated your campus ID, you're going to return to the iStart link from your next steps email. And I should say, backing up just a bit, this applies to most students. This does not apply to permanent residents. If you are a permanent resident or a citizen and you're getting emails from us, we'll have to work with each other over email to resolve your holds. But the vast majority of our students are going to do this. You have to click login. You should not click new student/scholar login. You are now a fully admitted, full Georgia State student, even though you're not here yet. And so you just need to click login. And then you're going to use your activated campus ID and your password to log into iStart. We can go to the next slide. So this is what it looks like when you log into iStart. If you've been admitted to Perimeter College, you'll see like PC everywhere. If you've been admitted to the Atlanta campus, you'll see main campus or ATL. If you've been admitted to both campuses, then you need to look closely to make sure you're submitting forms for the campus you plan to attend. So for our students who are going to be requesting an I20 or a DS 2019, you are going to be on the iStart homepage and you're looking for the request section at the very bottom, and that's where you're going to start. Later on, when you need to do things like international student orientation or immigration check-in, it will also be on the homepage under requests. If you see over on the left, there's a little tab that says 1.admission. If you're doing the other processes we're going to talk about, like verification of lawful presence, that is where you need to go. We can go to the next slide. So a bit about verification of lawful presence is that the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia requires all students to provide verification of their lawful presence in the United States. Our office is just the office that processes documents to help you fulfill that requirement. This is not a requirement from our office, and we also don't set the determination of whether or not you're like being charged in-state or out-of-state tuition. We're just verifying your documents. So if you want to read more about the verification of lawful presence process, you can take a picture of that link. Or if you just search on Google, like GSU verification of lawful presence, some information will come right up. Anyone who is requesting an I-20 is going to check this box and meet this requirement by receiving an I-20. Anybody who is a citizen, they've already provided stuff, they've checked that box as well. Permanent residents, if you've been approved for permanent residency, you're going to email your green card to us, and that will satisfy this requirement. Everybody else in every other immigration status in the US has to do the verification of lawful presence form in iStart. You're going to have a hold on your account You will not be able to register for classes until you meet this requirement. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So, like I mentioned, you're going to go to the admission tab over on the left, and then it can look a little different depending on whether or not you're a PC, Perimeter College, or an Atlanta student, but you'll see a form that says Verification of Lawful Presence, or VOLP as we call it, because that's a long name. So next slide. This is what the verification of lawful presence form looks like. Again, if you're going to be an F1 student, if you need an I20 from us, you do not need to do this form. This is for students in any other immigration status other than citizen, permanent resident, F1, or J1. There's some information here about the VOLP requirement, and it's pretty easy. There's a drop-down menu. You're going to select your immigration status in the menu, and then the form will prompt you to upload specific documents. We can't process your submission and can't lift your holds if we don't have all of the required documents. The documents do have to be in PDF form. That's true for everything you ever upload on iStart. It has to be a PDF. But we should stop here and talk for just a minute about some statuses that require declining to verify your lawful presence or opting out. If you have entered the US as an applicant for asylum but have not yet been approved, this e-form will direct you to select other as your immigration status. It's going to give you some informational boxes about like you have to decline to verify your lawful presence, gives you some information about how that impacts your tuition classification, eligibility for scholarships. Those are things that our office does not make decisions on. We're just notifying you. But once you complete the form, then we can lift your holds. Also, this form, if you select that you are in B1 or B2 status, we're going to verify it, but it will warn you that you are not allowed to enroll. That's just how the B2 visitor tourist visa status works. And so this is how we make sure that everyone who's studying at Georgia State is allowed to do that by their status. And then we will lift your immigration holds. Sometimes people enter the US in one status and get a certain type of visa, and then the purpose of them being in the US changes while they're here. They may enter as someone in H4 status here with a parent who's working in the US, and then they decide, I want to be on my own student visa. There are two different paths to changing status within the US. We have a great page on our website. If you just take a picture of that link there or just Google ISSS change of visa status, we can go over the two different paths. One is by exiting the US and attending a visa appointment. The other is by applying to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, to change status within the US. Both of these have their pros and cons that make one option right for people. We can definitely talk over your options with you, but we are always going to recommend you talk with an immigration attorney to decide which one is better for you. So we can go to the next slide. If you decide that you need to change status, particularly to F1 within the US, that's really the only scenario we're talking about here, you'll need to get a special type of I-20 called a change of status I-20. Perimeter College students can just go to the admission area in iStart and complete this e-form called Request Change of Status to F1 Visa. If you're at the Atlanta campus, and I'm guessing most of you are, you're going to have to attend an advising appointment, talk with an advisor about your situation, and then be given special access to the form. And though this is an image of what it looks like for a Perimeter College student who is requesting to change status through that e-form. Like I said, if you're at the Atlanta campus, we're going to give you special permission to the form. It's going to look a little different. We're trying to fix it and make it look like this so that you just move one by one through these kind of mini forms, give us the information we need, and then we will email you your I-20. I guess I have one last note about change of status is ISSS's role is to determine your eligibility for the I-20, just like we do for everyone outside the US. And then from that point on, the process is between you and an immigration attorney. We can't help you apply. We can't help you decide which path is right. That is definitely attorney territory, and we are specialized in international student advising, not that part of the law. So just keep that in mind if that's something you're thinking about. Thank you. Okay, e-learning. Sometimes students have been admitted. They're not already in the US, so they don't need to do VOLP. They are not in the US and want to change status. They're actually outside the US and for whatever reason can't come to the US. Maybe a visa got denied and there's not time to reapply, or they decide that it would be better to maybe live at home and save money and attend school online. So if that is something that interests you, you need to complete the e-learning permission e-form and iStart. And this is the way that we will lift your holds. So we can go to the next slide. You can find the e-learning permission form in the admission tab of iStart and click the form. Next slide. This is a little bit of what the form looks like. There are a series of questions. As you answer each one, it gives you an appropriate next question. You're probably going to say, I'm outside the US and that I want to enroll online in the fall. And it's going to confirm, are you trying to enroll in person, online, or a little bit of both? And you're probably going to say online courses only. We're then going to ask for a copy of your passport and permission to look at your I-94 entry record. This is because we must verify that you really are outside the country before we give you permission to do all e-learning. That's because the F1 status does not permit you to enroll all online. And if you're in another immigration status in the US, you should be doing the VOLP process. And lastly, it would not be permissible to complete the e-learning form, enter as a tourist, and then study online from inside the US. Not permitted at all by law. So the purpose of this form is for us to verify that you're outside the US and give you permission to enroll in classes online from your home country. You have to do this form every single semester that you're going to be enrolling online. The hold on your account is going to reappear right before you need to register for the next semester's classes. And so we have to re-verify that you're still outside the US. And then I think there's one other note about this. Oh, some good news about this is by completing this form, we're going to lift your holds, but we're also going to make sure that you don't get charged United States health insurance that you can't even use. So it's really important to do this form for that reason as well and make sure that your tuition bill is not higher than it needs to be.
Yeah,
All right, next.
yeah, I just want to add on one question. So we had this situation happen in the past, student asked. So if a student's already received their I-20, they went to do the visa interview, but they couldn't get any open appointments until a later time. So they want to start, so they have to start it online for the first semester in the fall and then come for the spring when they get a visa. So they already got I-20. Are they gonna still go through this, or there's some other ways they will do to bypass this?
That's a great question. This is an unfortunately common situation where students get denied a visa application their first time and they just don't have time to come the semester they wanted to. So in this situation, let's say they were admitted to Georgia State for the fall, they got an I-20, they attended a visa appointment and it was denied, or maybe they couldn't even get a visa appointment until September after school has already started. Um, and maybe the student decides, okay, I want to study online in the fall, but I want to try to arrive in the spring. I'm going to go to that visa appointment and then I'm going to come in January. So that student would complete the e-learning permission request. They'll complete this form that will help us update their record to again make sure they don't get charged health insurance like they're an F1 student inside the US. And then we'll also follow up and say, are you planning on coming in the spring? Then it's very easy for us to defer their I-20. Or if the student just can't decide, they can reach out to us later to let us know when they want their I-20 for. Either way, students who decide to come later need to complete this form in order to study online in the fall. I would say the best thing for a student in that situation to do would be to attend our advising hours so we can talk through their specific situation and timeline, make notes, and make a plan to have the student contact us at a certain time or make a plan to have us reach out to the student at a certain time. But it is possible for us to defer that I-20 to a later date. and the student can keep their CVIS ID a lot of times and kind of save themselves that fee and that hassle.
Great, thank you. And also to the students' benefit, once you accepted for the fall 2024, if you start online and you come to campus in spring or January 2025, you do not need to reapply because you already applied, got accepted for the fall, and you started in the fall. Regardless you are doing in person or online, the only changes you do, you have to send us a new reactivation application for the online for fall 2024. So we will definitely talk more during the future sessions, but I just want to bring this point. So make a note to yourself if you're in one of the situation. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next.
Yeah, that was a great question. Really, at any point your immigration plans change, definitely contact our office so we can make sure your student record is correct, you don't have unnecessary holds on your account, and then to a certain extent we can make sure your bill is appropriate, although that's really not not our main purpose. All right, we've now moved on to the vast majority of traditional international students who are going to be in the US in F1 status, and they want an immigration document. I'm going to talk through the forms that you need to complete, as well as what you do after the forms have been completed. But I want to take this moment to talk about the I-20 wait times. So I usually think that providing as much information as possible can provide clarity and help people understand why things are the way they are. So right now, our I-20 wait times are about 21 business days, which is an extremely long time. We know that that is so stressful for students. You can't book your visa appointment without your I-20. We understand that the first school you get an I-20 from may be the school you decide to attend, if that's where you can get a visa. So we have a lot of empathy for students waiting and waiting on their I-20s. We also are really motivated to have your I-20 given to you as fast as possible. But right now we have about 300 students waiting on I-20s and 3 people who can make them. And there are multiple steps in this process. We have people just devoted to doing financial review, which is where a lot of the follow up and restarting has to happen. And then those same people, if approved, move on and work on the rest of your I-20 request. It then moves on to our designated school officials like me, the DSOs, who could do a final review and actually issue your immigration document and lift your holds. So we have a plan right now that we are working through so that everyone who submitted financial review will hear something back about their financials by Monday. We are shooting for Friday, but just think about Monday. If you submitted it anytime after Sunday, April the 14th, you're probably looking at a 10-day I-20 wait time. But for the people who requested before April 15th, we are going to try to do your financial review at the latest by Monday. And then we are going to try our very best to give you your I-20 within 5 business days after that. That's kind of all we're doing. So we may be even slower than usual, which is slow, to reply to emails. So that's just what I want to say about the I-20 wait times. I know it's really stressful, but we are doing the very best we can. So I hope that answers some questions about I-20 wait times. All right. Actually, would you go back to that slide for just one moment? Sorry. Just going to skim this. The main hardest, most complex part of the I-20 request is getting your financial documents right. The main idea is just try to think of common sense requirements for your financial documents. Is your name or the name of the person who owns the bank account on the document. It has to be less than 6 months old. So we need a date on the document. The currency does not have to be in US dollars, but we do need to see what the currency is. So if you just upload a bank statement and we don't know what the currency is, we'll have to deny it. And then we also need to make sure that the funds are liquid. It has to be readily available to pay your tuition by the first day of classes. So if this is, for example, in a Vietnamese or a Chinese bank statement that has a maturity date, that maturity date must be before school starts for the semester you're trying to come. Other accounts like a regular checking or current account, a savings account, it has to be in that type of account. It cannot be in stocks. It cannot be, other types of investment accounts. You would need to liquidate it first. Then that's a requirement from federal regulations. But the financial requirement to receive an I-20 is not very flexible. So to review the estimated cost of attendance, it's really easiest to just search on Google ISSS review estimated cost of attendance. And our page with all the requirements and the amounts you need to show will come right up. And this gets updated around June for like the next calendar year. So right now, all of our costs are accurate. But if you are a student who ends up deferring to spring 2025, you're going to have a slightly different amount you need to show. But right now, just worry about fall. Okay, next slide. To request an I-20, you can go to this request section at the bottom of your iStart homepage. If you are at the Atlanta campus, it will not say Perimeter College, it will say main campus. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I just want to add on one quick note. So for those of you who don't know Georgia State, again, I mentioned there are two campuses that require two different I-20. So it's not like Georgia State University has one I-20 because they are at a different level. So Georgia State is one of very unique higher ed institution in the United States. I think I have worked in other 5 institutions. This is the only institution has a 2-year campus attached to it. So Perimeter College is 2-year. Downtown offers 4-year master PhD. So at a different level, you're attending graduate level, you need I-20 for that level. Undergraduate level, 4-year, you need I-20, and the 2-year, you need I-20. So that's why please making sure if you are admitted to the Perimeter College, you need to apply for the Perimeter College I-20. If you applied it to the downtown, got accepted to downtown 4-year, your I-20 will go through the downtown Atlanta campus.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm also seeing a few messages in the chat about I-20 wait times. I'll kind of circle back to that at the end, but since it's already 10:40, I'm just going to keep moving, and I'm going to move pretty fast. So our e-forms have really great instructions at the top of each e-form. So just do the best you can to read through those. You'll see that they say required, 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 optional, not yet available. So you need to do all of the required ones. If you are transferring a CVIS record from another school, like let's say you're a student at the University of Alabama and you've been admitted to Georgia State and you want to transfer your CVIS record, you do need to do that optional form. Everybody else does not. And then lastly, there's that one at the bottom that says, request my I-20. If you do not click that, we will not be notified to review your request. That is the form that makes like an alert for an advisor. So if you submit the first time and do all your forms, but you don't do that final required one, we'll never be notified to review your request. And in a sea of 300 requests, it will probably be lost. And then if you ever if maybe you forget to upload a financial document, we have to deny it. We follow up and say, please resubmit your financial documentation. Our email instructions to you are going to say, you need to resubmit financial documentation and request my I-20. Because if you don't do that second one, we'll never be notified to re-review your financials. So next slide, please.
Yes, I just want to make a quick note. I know, I'm so happy to have Bradley join us today. We are on a time constraint, so we go a little faster, but please make sure you change your screen name to your real name so we can check you in. We will share the recording of this session.
Sorry, I muted myself. Here are some deadlines. I would encourage you to take a picture of whichever semester you're planning to come to Georgia State. Maybe take a picture of both in case you need to defer to fall. Our earliest deadline is students requesting an initial I-20. In the past, we have been quite flexible with this. We cannot be flexible anymore. We just have far too many students. And this is a really realistic deadline because we know that you've got to attend a visa appointment. You have to get approved. You have to wait to get your passport back. You have to get on a plane, and then you need to be in your classes. So these deadlines are built around how long we need to process your forms and also how much time it's going to take you to actually arrive in the country. So if it's starting to look like you can't request your I-20 by this time, or you're not getting approved, that's when you need to think about e-learning, deferring, or something like that. I don't think these other options like transfer and change of level apply to all of you like newly admitted freshman students, but this is the deadline for students who are going from perimeter college to the downtown campus or a bachelor's to a master's degree. They have a slightly later deadline. Then we have e-learning students. Your deadline is right before school starts. I recommend doing it as fast as possible because you can't register for your classes until you do this. But then we have your e-learning deadlines. And lastly, anyone in any other immigration status, the deadline to request to do your verification of lawful presence form is right before classes start. But again, do it early so you can register for your classes. All right, orientation and check-in. If you are not in the US, like let's say you're going to do e-learning or you defer, you do not need to do these forms. If you are in a status other than F1 or J1, you do not need to do these steps. You probably have to do orientation for other departments and you should attend an advising session and all of that good stuff, but you don't have to do international student orientation. So I'm talking right now to F1 and J1 students who are coming in person. You have 3 forms you need to do. They'll be very clear on iStart. Maybe we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so at the bottom of your iStart homepage where you found your I20 request, summer 2024 students can see these forms now. Fall 2024 students, these are not yet available to you. They will be available probably in June, and you'll get an email about it. And so if you were to click that link, let's go to the next slide. There are, oh, it looks like it cut off just a bit. There are 3 things you have to do. You have to register for International Student Orientation. We need 5 days to process that form, and we're going to send you access to the course. The course is not done on iStart. It's on a platform called Homebase. It has very specific information about things like succeeding at a visa appointment, finding housing, getting around Atlanta, academic honesty standards in the US and like United States classroom culture. It's really great and it is required. So you do register for International Student Orientation. When you finish the course, you will complete the ISO completion certificate upload. That's where you verify that you did do our International Student Orientation, which is completely separate from Start at State, which is also required for you. So if you upload your Start at State completion certificate here, we'll deny it and we'll say, you need to finish Homebase, you need to finish ISO. And then lastly, whenever you arrive to the US, you're going to complete immigration check-in. You should do that as soon as you get here, but no later than the start of classes. If you're ever having problems with receiving your International Student Orientation certificate, we can help you troubleshoot. It's probably because you like missed a question inside the course or you didn't watch a video. You have to reach 100% completion, including the quiz at the end and the mini quiz questions inside. But just attend our advising appointments or email us if you have a question about that. Next slide, please. Yes, this is what it looks like. We've already seen that. Next one, please. This is an image of what it looks like to register for International Student Orientation. If you just read through it, it's very clear and you will not have any problems. We need to know what type of document you got so that we can send you the correct course because we have different information for F1 and J1 students. And we can go to the next slide. You'll make your Homebase account. Very easy. I recommend using your GSU email so that you don't forget, but you could use your personal. You just need to remember which one you use. Next slide, please. This is just a note about all of the sections that there are. There are actually more than this, and you need to do the quiz as well. Next slide, please. This is what the completion certificate looks like, and this is where you put it. If your certificate does not look like this, you have completed something else, and we need your Homebase course. And like I said, this is going to be sent automatically to your email. You don't have to request the certificate. The minute you complete 100% of the course, this certificate comes to your email address that you registered with. All right. Lastly, after you arrive in the US. This also applies to students who change status to F1 and get approved before the semester starts. So if you change status to F1 by applying to USCIS, you also have to do International Student Orientation, upload your certificate, and complete the arrival confirmation e-form. This is so important. I cannot say enough how important immigration check-in is for F1 and J1 students. Your record will stay in initial status unless you do this. And if you don't do this, and if we don't activate your SEVIS record, it will like cancel itself. It happens automatically. We don't go in and click cancel. It will just poof, cancel itself. And we really don't want that to happen. So make sure that you do your arrival confirmation e-form like the day you get to the US or the day after. If you need a few days, that's okay. You just have to do it by the Friday of the first week of classes. I don't recommend waiting that long though, because then we're going to start calling you like every other day. But the deadline is always Friday of the first week of classes. You're going to need to upload some documents. You have to give us the information that SEVIS requires us to activate your record. We can't activate your record without your address in the United States. So we collect that in this form. We also are going to check your entry record and make sure that Customs and Border Protection didn't say that you're here as a tourist when really you're here as an F1 student. So this is where we collect all that information and then activate your SEVIS record. Next slide. Okay. An unfortunate reality is that some students cannot get a visa appointment on time, or they get denied a visa. And so we need to start thinking about alternative options. One, you can start your program online like we've talked about and do the e-learning e-form, or you can defer your admission to a future term. Deferring your admission is a process that you do not do with ISSS. First, you defer your admission or like reactivate it for another semester with the admissions office and PISA's team. Then you talk with ISSS about deferring your I20 and making your immigration plan. So next slide. If your visa gets denied, or if you can't get an appointment on time, the fastest way to get instructions is to complete this form. Do the visa denial/delay e-form. It's also located in the admission tab. You basically tell us what happened and a little bit about what you want your plan to be, and then we will reply with instructions on like, okay, first you need to defer your admission, then request your I-20, or in some cases, we might be able to just defer your I-20 automatically. So I really do encourage you to complete the visa denial/delay e-form if your visa is denied, or if the appointment that you booked is after school starts. All right, next slide, please. We've kind of already talked about these two things. You either need to apply for the online program, or you need to work with the admissions office to reactivate your application for the future semester. But we cannot defer your I-20 or give you a new I-20 until you take one of these actions. We've kind of already talked about the e-learning form. It's located in the admissions section. So we can move to the next slide. This is kind of more of the same. We're going to review your form and then we'll give you specialized instructions and lift your holds. Next slide. Okay, here we go with enrollment requirements. This is something that is covered in Homebase. It's in the Homebase quiz, which is only like 5 questions because it's so important. If you are not meeting your F1 enrollment requirements, we will be calling you a lot and emailing you a lot because it will lead to closure of your SEVIS record if it's not resolved. The F1 enrollment requirements are not flexible. They're from the Department of Homeland Security, not from ISSS. So just look over these and make sure that your schedule is meeting these requirements. If you are starting in the summer, undergraduate students need to be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours. Only one can be online. Actually, I think it says they have to be in person, but I don't think that's correct right there. But make sure you're enrolled in at least 6 credit hours and aim for like face-to-face or hybrid courses. Okay, so fall 2024 students who are starting in the fall, undergraduate students, you must enroll in 12 credit hours. And the maximum of them that can be online is 3. That's one course. You cannot have one 4 credit hour online course and then only be enrolled in 9 in-person credit hours. So make sure that max you're enrolled in 3 online credits and the rest are face-to-face or hybrid. When you've met those requirements, you can enroll in as many online classes as you want to, but at least out of the 12 required for immigration, only 3 can be online. And if it looks like you can't meet these requirements, like there are no face-to-face classes left, you should defer your attendance because it's not going to work to arrive in the US and try to take an excess of online classes. So we can go to the next slide. Once you have dealt with your immigration holds, you've noticed that your pause account has an immunization hold and you've taken care of that, you can move on to academic advising. Please pay attention to your email for messages from the admissions team at ISSS about scheduling an advising session while you're outside the US. If you're going to be outside the US until right before school starts, it should be possible for you to register for a session to pick your classes before you arrive. So summer classes start June 3rd. So the earliest you can come to the United States is May 4th. Fall classes start August 26th. The earliest you can come to the United States is July 27th. This does not apply to students in like H4 status. This is for F1 and J1. Next slide, thanks. Okay, holds. Everybody wants to talk about holds. We can't lift your immigration holds until you meet your immigration requirements. That means you receive your I-20 or you have been approved, your like verification of lawful presence or your e-learning form has been approved. While you're waiting for approval, we can't temporarily lift your hold. And then also ISSS can only lift our holds. We can lift things that sound very immigration related, like international admissions, citizenship verification, lawful presence. And if you have one or if you have 2 of those, when you complete your requirement, we'll lift both of them. We'll take care of all of them at one time, but we can't lift other offices' holds. The most common one we see is that students have an immunizations hold, and they'll come to our office at the very beginning of the school year and say, I can't register, I have an immunization hold, please lift it. We can't lift another office's hold, so make sure that you meet those requirements as early as possible. Thanks. Okay. I would say if you have a pressing, urgent situation and you need to talk with an advisor about your particular circumstances, our advising line is probably the best place to go. If you search ISSS, GSU, advising, right at the top of our ISSS website, you'll see student advising on the right. And we have information about how you can request a call from an advisor. It's first come, first served. So you don't make an appointment. We just have like open hours 4 days a week. You join the line. When it's your turn, we give you a phone call. If you happen to be in the US, you can come in person too, but the phones are easier. I will say this week, our international calling is not working. Sorry, my computer turned itself off. Just a moment. Our international calling is down. We're trying to get that resolved with IT. So if you join the phone advising line like this week or next week, call our office and we'll keep you on hold until I can talk with you or until someone else can talk with you. Other than that, please email isss@gsu.edu. If you have like an error in your e-forms, send a screenshot. If you have your visa denied, send an email. Although I'd really just recommend doing the visa denial/delay e-form. Please do not send emails following up on the status of an e-form if it's been less than 10 business days. Like I said, we are working to have everybody's I-20 request down to 10 business days, but it's going to take us some time to keep working through this backlog. But as long as you've submitted every single form, your request has not been lost. We do have it. We just process forms in the order in which they were submitted. So if you submitted on, I don't know, if you submitted 2 days ago, you're going to wait for probably 10 business days because we're working on finishing everything submitted before April 15th. Yeah, if you have any other questions, I do recommend just emailing our office. Otherwise, you can join our phone advising lines.